Hey, it's the right weekend. Took a couple days. Uh, Still, well, I was just with family, and now I'm back here. Um, just had to reboot, so to speak. Um, but I'm going to talk about an article that I saw. I know everybody was talking about it, but I'm going to give my take. Um, and here I'm starting with. I'm not going to go into the whole thing of left versus right. What I want to talk about here is just some of the common accepted definitions of the term fascism. Here it goes, the fascist negations: anti-liberalism, anti-communism, and anti-conservatism. Fascist goals: the creation of a nationalist dictatorship to regulate economic structure and to transform social relations with a modern, self-determined culture and the expansion of the nation into an empire. Fascist style: a political aesthetic of romantic symbolism, mass mobilization, a positive view of violence, and promotion of masculinity, youth, and charismatic authoritarian leadership. Now, I know there are going to be people on the left that's saying that's Trump. There's going to be people on the right that's saying that's Obama, but I'll leave that to you guys to judge. Um, but what I want to talk about is this Time magazine article that came out where here's the title. Sorry, I was just reading it. The secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election. Now, just the title itself, it's like arrogant much with the save the 2020 election. I mean, look, obviously I was a Trump supporter, but when you read through this article, just take the name Trump out, replace it with Obama, replace it with Hillary, replace it with whoever your preferred candidate is. Doesn't matter left or right. Just imagine it's someone you liked. Imagine if it's Bernie Sanders. Imagine if it's Tulsi Gabbard. Whoever. Now, replace Trump and put that person's name in there. And understand that these were people who didn't like the candidate, so they went above and beyond to destroy that candidate. And the irony is they said it was to fortify the election, and it's like, yeah, I wouldn't call fortifying when you're basically changing the rules and got rules changed in the middle of the game. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm scrolling through the article here, and here's the handshake. This is the handshake between business and labor that was once component of a vast cross-partisan campaign to protect the election, an extraordinary shadow effort dedicated not to winning the vote, but to ensuring that it would be free, fair, credible, and uncorrupted. Nonsense. When you see it's, when you see what they did and the effort that they went through just to just to get people to vote for the person that they wanted, it's crazy. They touched every aspect of the election. They got states to change voting systems and laws and helped secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. They fended off voter suppression lawsuits, recruited armies of poll workers, and got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. Voter suppression lawsuits. This is what they call voter suppression lawsuits. Someone hasn't lived in the state. The state's like, I just moved out of Texas a year and a half ago. Who knows if my voter registration was still there in Texas? Every couple of years, they clear that stuff out. That's not voter suppression. Or you know what? During this pandemic, a lot of people moved. People moved in with relatives. People moved out of the cities, um, and you know there's certain you have certain time frames in which you could um, change your address. So you know there's stuff like that. That's not voter suppression. It's not. It's as much as you know the people on the left want to do complain about that. You know, especially people like Stacey Abrams. You have to clean those those voter rolls from people that don't live in your state no more. People that change districts. You know, maybe there's a state senate race, and you know that person shouldn't be. You know, they moved. They were, let's say, you know, they were, instead of living in New York City, they moved to Binghamton. Well, you know, now you've been living in Binghamton for a year. You shouldn't, to get out of New York City during the pandemic. If you're now living in Binghamton, you shouldn't be voting in New York to affect the election in New York, or vice versa. So, you know, but we keep going. They successfully pressured social media companies to take a harder line against disinformation and use data-driven strategies to fight viral smears. You know, there's so many things, like let's say like the Hunter Biden thing that that social media killed. So like that people wouldn't get to hear the story. They actually censored the New York Post's Twitter page. You couldn't share it. You couldn't even share it on Facebook Messenger. Couldn't share the story. This is a dirty trick. You know, there was smears against Trump that were able to be disseminated with no problem, and this is where this is what we're talking about. So replace your forget about it as Trump, and that's hard. People get so focused on Trump because he's such a the left will hate to hear it. He's a larger than life character, as I call him, a character. And people get so focused on Trump, they get tunnel vision. And it's like, oh, Trump, 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 Trump. No, look, listen, forget Trump. Like I said, just focus on whoever. If this was, if this was a campaign ran against Hillary or ran against Obama or ran against Bernie Sanders, are you okay with that? Are you okay with this? Like I said, especially with the social media, would you be okay with that? I'm sure you wouldn't. And that's where you have to be principled. You got to forget about the partisanship and be principled and go, if there was a public-private campaign to get rid of, I don't like Trump, but let's, it's like I said, you don't like Trump, replace it with whoever you like. Would you be okay with it? If the answer is no, then be principled and be against this stuff that happened. They work to change laws, especially like here in Pennsylvania. They illegally changed the law. Some of the voting laws, it was supposed to be done by the state legislature, and it was changed. Some of these laws were changed by the Secretary of State and by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and that's illegal. That's not the way those election laws are supposed to be changed. And so here, it's just talking about how Trump said it was going to be rigged, and they had people, trying to suppress the vote, and Trump tried to block legitimate votes. And it's like, if you don't have an ID of some form, look, listen, people go, oh, well, not everybody could afford an ID. Guess what? They even have your picture ID on some states on their welfare cards. I know Texas offers a free voter ID card that you could get. That it's just an ID so you could vote. all states could offer this for free, but the whole problem is they don't want. They enjoy the chaos. Helps them out. They don't want election integrity. They want the chaos because then we could go from there. And here they talk about. I want to get to the part where let's see. Where was I at when I started? Okay, why the participants want. Here it goes. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told. Oh, really? No. Sorry about that. Come on. Okay. Let's cancel it over here. I'm sorry about that, people. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream. A well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging from industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. Do you see that there? I mean, that's the whole reason why I went with the whole about the fascism, and it's it's ironic that they always want to say the right is they're fascist and all this. Look, listen, fascism is a form of authoritarianism, and guess what? Authoritarianism runs on both sides of the aisle. It's not just a right-wing thing; it's also a left-wing thing. So, and it goes. So here's funny. I mean, look at everything they did. They were well funded. They worked to influence perceptions, change rules, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. But they weren't rigging the election. They were fortifying it. If that's not some Orwellian doublespeak right there, of course they were. They weren't fortifying the election. They were changing. Let's not say they were rigging the results. They were changing the results for. They were changing the results for. Basically, for their purpose. That's what they wanted, because they wanted the election results to be what they wanted. They didn't want a repeat of 2016 when they thought Trump had no chance. This time they knew Trump had a chance, so they had to work extra hard to make sure he wasn't going to win, because they didn't want that win. So when you see that, and when you go through this article, just that right there, I mean, that alone right there says enough. I mean, here he's just talking about one of the guys. He's he's a union guy, and here it talks about Trump has made it clear it may not be fair elections, and that he will reject anything but his own re-election as fake and rigged, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Trump says stupid things, but look, listen, they actually did do stuff behind the scenes against him. It wasn't to fortify the election, it was against Trump. So like you Bernie people, what happened in 2016, what happened now in 2020? They rigged the primary against Bernie. Were you okay with that? Well, obviously, you hated Trump so much that you forgot to be pissed off at the party that rigged it against the guy that you liked, because they screwed him over twice. So, do you want this? Is this what you want in 2024? Is this how you want? You want a special group of people to choose the president for you? Is that what you want? Because that's what's going on right now. You're not really getting a choice. You're getting false choice. You're getting to choose the candidate that they basically manipulate you to love, and the candidate they manipulate you to hate. And that's how the game is played. And that's why, like, I have a friend of mine that's always like, oh, how can you not be left wing? How could you be for the right? And I go, look, I got my issues with both sides, but I tend to lean more right, because the fact that the right tends to be more on the side of freedom, even if it means the problem is to their own detriment sometimes that they lean toward freedom. And that's where the left has an easier time because they're, collectivists and Marxists. They, they want to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They want to, contain power. They want to keep power for themselves. And it's much easier when you're working as a collectivist versus an individual, because individual wants the individual power versus a collectivist. They're like, oh, let's work together and get the power, and that's where things get dangerous. That's where you do get the fascism. That's where you do get communism. That's where you get this authoritarianism. Because it's always if I was the dictator, who I would be I would be the one that would be the good dictator. I wouldn't be the bad dictator. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It doesn't matter, and the other saying that goes, hell, the way to hell is paved with good intentions. So, look, this article is, it's just crazy. You see the stuff that they went through, the money they saved. There was one, where was I at here that I wanted to show, I'm sorry. There was one where they were talking about one of the people that donated money was Mark Zuckerberg's organization. Private philanthropy stepped into the breach. An assortment of foundation contributed tens of millions in election administration funding. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative chipped in $300 million. It was a failure at the federal level that 2,500 local election officials were forced to apply for philanthropic grants to fill their needs. So there you go. It's like, this is what happened. This is the story of what happened in 2020 in the election. The media, the media manipulated you. They couldn't stand Trump. Look, he didn't speak eloquently. He was, in Spanish we call him bruto. He was an a-hole. There's no nice way to say it. And they used something that the people liked about him, also people didn't like about him. That was the problem. It's a double-edged sword for him. And, people liked the fact that he was an a-hole and fought that, you couldn't just tell him, you couldn't just go, you're racist. And he's going to be like, I'm sorry, I'm not a racist. I'm going to show you that I'm not a racist. I'm going to let you, No, he's like, F you, I'm not a racist. And just because you use that as a weapon doesn't mean that I'm going to sit there and take it. And that's what happened. He fought against that label with, instead of going, oh, I'm going to change the way I talk, I'm going to go out there and prove it. His policies helped everybody because a rising tide raises all ships. And the economy before COVID was doing well for everybody. And, I'm not going to use Wall Street because Wall Street is manipulated. We already know that. I'm talking about the jobs were there. If you wanted to work, you could find work. Even sometimes if you couldn't, if you didn't have luck staying with jobs, you could always find another one. I get emails all the time about, hey, we have an open position. Are you interested? And it's like, no, not right now. This is just, I just wanted to show people that this is, this is something to be worried about. I'm going to stop the screen share here. I just want to talk. This is the issue. If we're you're using fascism to defeat fascism. Basically, that's what you're kind of doing. You're talking about, Antifa and all this stuff. Look, the tactics they use are fascistic tactics. What they did here, public-private partnership to push people to vote for the candidate that they wanted to, that, you know, they pushed, the media didn't need much push to, you know, manipulate the news. Always, it was never anything positive. It was always, they were always fighting with the Trump administration for 4 years. And you can see the difference in media coverage right away because they got the candidate that they wanted. And, you know, I would prefer, honestly, I would prefer if they were always hard on each. I would prefer the way they were with Trump for 4 years is that's the way they would be with every single president, regardless of party. I'd be fine with that because that's how the media should be. The media shouldn't be the sock puppets of a political party. And people could say that about Fox News, but at the same time, guess what? You got the right has Fox News and some smaller outlets. The left has CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, ABC, all of those stations. I mean, if you look at people who work in the stations, then some of their main anchors, they are all left-leaning activists, not journalists, activists. Because you have like ABC has, you know, George Stephanopoulos, CNN, Cuomo, Tapper, Lemon. You know, go through all the stations. You could see the partisanship there. And so, you know, news has a bias slant to whoever they want you, who they want you to not like. And it happens. I mean, you know, now we're going from terrorism, international terrorism, to now they want to, you know, they want to make the new boogeyman, the new 2-minute hate is going to be domestic terrorists. And it's not Antifa that was, you know, attacking court buildings all summer. No, it's the one time some idiots on the right went into the Capitol building. Now, all right, everybody on the right are domestic terrorists. It's ridiculous, and that's what they want to use, like the 9/11 style fight of terrorism to use against domestic terrorists, domestic extremists. And it's all ideological. That's what it is. They, you know, they want to scare people to stop having an open mind and going to their side. And it's not, you know, it's not going to work. It's going to make things worse. It's going to make the divide worse. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Have a good one.